Here at the Sagicor Cave Hill School of Business and Management, located at the University of the West Indies Cave Hill campus, we meet the needs of the upwardly mobile professionals. Our business school functions in an evolving global space where the need to have that competitive edge distinguishes you as a professional. Our academic curriculum offers a variety of programs that gives you that edge. We offer our students a doctorate in business administration. Then, there's our executive masters in business administration. Our Sagicor Cave Hill School of Business and Management is for you. Enroll now.
Good morning all and welcome. It is 10 a.m. in the Eastern Caribbean. Welcome to Friday webinars at the Business School, UWI Cave Hill. My name is Marjorie Wharton. I am the Strategic Business Services Director and Clinical Faculty with the Sagicor Cave Hill School of Business at UWI Cave Hill campus. And I am the host for this event today. Our topic today is entrepreneurship. Experiences from the field. There is an increasingly urgent need for entrepreneurship to become a wider part of the economic activity of the Caribbean region. Starting and running your own business often requires a mindset to see opportunities in the challenges that we face and a skill set that incorporates the discipline to stick with a business even when success is not immediately visible. Today's webinar includes two entrepreneurs who will share with us their experiences in building their businesses and will offer advice that can help individuals who are hoping to pursue their own opportunities now. As always, our webinar is scheduled to run for 1 hour and 15 minutes. As the discussion progresses, please remember that you are encouraged to ask your questions as well. If you are attending via Zoom, check your screens for the option on the bottom labeled Q&A. At any point during the webinar, you may use that feature or the chat feature to submit your questions. If you are joining us on Facebook, you may submit your questions via the comments. As we go along, our panelists will try to respond to as many of your questions as time allows. Now let me introduce our panelists. Inspired by her single parent mother, Julie, from the age of 10, Lily was out working alongside her mother in her real estate business. She started working officially in the business at 14 and continued every summer, Christmas, and Easter vacation after that. Lily studied in Canada and then attended the prestigious Hugh Wooding Law School in Trinidad. An attorney at law, called to the Barbados bar, she heads her own practice, Lily Dash and Associates, with an acute interest in property and contract law. Lily is also founder and CEO of Villa Bound, managing a portfolio of the world's largest and most luxurious villa estates in destinations renowned for their uniqueness, including, of course, the Caribbean. She specializes in both the sale and short-term rental of villas and private homes for high-profile clients who require the pinnacle of luxury, privacy, and security with fine touches of innovation. Lily is also an advocate for blockchain technology and enjoys trading in cryptocurrencies. This has seen the launch of her latest venture, Rexy, a blockchain-based real estate platform which allows for fractional investment in real estate in the Caribbean. In addition, Lily is co-founder and CEO of WeFetch. The company was started at the end of March 2020 in response to COVID-19. WeFetch is an online marketplace for physical products in the Caribbean. WeFetch is empowering communities by transforming the way goods move around in the Caribbean locally, enabling anyone to have anything delivered on demand. Ladies and gentlemen, Lily Dash. Good morning, Lily.
Good morning. Thank you so much, Marjorie. That was amazing. Thank you.
Okay, happy to have you with us. Our second panelist this morning is a spirited entrepreneur and highly motivated individual with over 20 years of experience operating with small and medium enterprises. This involvement has ranged from the cultural industries to micro property development with a later focus on entrepreneurship education. He held the post of Program Manager of the Barbados Entrepreneurship Foundation and the National Project Officer of the Caribbean Congress of Labor. As a social entrepreneurship project, Christopher managed the company TBB Inc., which was involved in micro property development. This incorporated the 3 Ps model: people, planet, profit. Derelict properties were purchased and renovated cost effectively, thereby allowing for the physical improvement of the communities, providing quality and affordable housing for the working class while making an acceptable profit margin. In addition to working on various entrepreneurial projects, Christopher is the resident entrepreneurship lecturer for the Sagicor Cave Hill School of Business and the Caribbean Science Foundation. He also works in the third sector as a business consultant for the Peter Booz Foundation. Christopher holds an associate degree from the Berklee College of Music in the USA, a postgraduate diploma in Arts and Cultural Enterprise Management from the University of the West Indies at St. Augustine, and an MBA in Strategic Management from the University of Plymouth in England. His MBA thesis focused on the potential contribution of entrepreneurship to the growth of a developing country, with Barbados as his case study. Christopher, good morning. Welcome to you, Christopher Harper. Your mic is muted, Chris.
Good morning, and thank you very much.
You are very welcome. Thank you very much, and a pleasure to have you. So as we get started this morning, I'm going to ask each of you to just give a few opening comments as we go, really just to get us started. And once that has happened, then we're going to go into question and answers. And of course, we will be looking out for those questions from our audience as we go along as well. So Lily, I'm just going to ask you to start us off with your opening comments, and then Christopher, I am coming to you. So Lily?
Yeah, well, thank you so much for having me. I am also a graduate of the University of the West Indies. I studied there. I studied law there, so it's very close to my heart. And we've been doing a lot of work with Sagicor as well, with WeFetch, and they've been helping and contributing to the community in an enormous way. So I'm really grateful and happy to be here. And yeah, I mean, it's been a crazy time with COVID, and things have definitely shifted enormously. I'm sure all of us feel it, and we all have to be pivoting and positioning to best ride this wave or hike this mountain, whichever you want to call it. But so we've been doing that with WeFetch, but I have quite a bit of entrepreneurial background in the property space, the legal space, the online e-commerce space. And with WeFetch, we've just been trying to build out the ecosystem here, and COVID has been a good opportunity for that, to see how the Caribbean takes on to e-commerce and online, and more online payments, and all of these things that we really need to become a more efficient society, really.
All right, and thank you very much, Lily. Chris?
Well, as I said, I'm honored to be here. I think that this is a wonderful opportunity for us to share some knowledge. And I think now with this COVID environment, it has really highlighted the fact that we need as a society to be more self-sufficient. And we've seen it with our dependency on food from overseas, and people are now shifting more to being more sustainable farming and stuff like that. But as from an entrepreneur perspective, we are now realizing that we need to depend more on our skills, and this really now cements in the fact that we need to be looking, all of us, more entrepreneurial, and move away from the mindset of only sourcing income from selling your labor, but more focus on creation of the means of production so that you are more in control. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you should not work for anyone, because ultimately you will always have clients that you have to work for. But it is really looking at how do you negotiate the skills that you have, negotiate them for sale at a better price, one that benefits you more. And the more the individual benefits, it benefits everyone around you. And ultimately, the economy and GDP, and the less foreign exchange we spend, the better our country will be in a position to grow.
Absolutely, and thank you very much. And so both of you have really highlighted, I think, a conversation that's occurring a lot in many spaces, the fact that there is a need for change in the way we move forward in our economic development, in the way we grow our economies. It definitely is a conversation that has been going on probably for decades, but I think the COVID crisis has really pushed us to start thinking along those lines in a more serious way. Our panelists last week described it as the region is really on a burning platform, and I think a lot of us are now seeing the fires and feeling the heat more clearly. So I'll start by asking you this question. It is often said that the difference with entrepreneurs is the ability to see into the heart of a problem and spot the pain point that needs to be solved. Is that true for you? And what would you say to someone to help them develop that capability if they do not have it?
So, do you want me to start first?
That's fine, go ahead.
Okay, so with WeFetch, for instance, WeFetch is in the delivery space and online e-commerce platform. As soon as we saw this starting to happen, like March 23rd, I could see, property law, all of my big villa rentals, everything else shut down, and you can see, okay, what's the most important thing? And I think that's what COVID has taught us. Like, what really is the most important thing? Like, we were speaking earlier about sustainability, and food is the most important thing, right? And access to food is the most important thing, whether that be farming or even just access to the supermarkets, which I could see was, a big problem. So WeFetch got inside access, like backstage access to the supermarkets, and then we're able to sell that service to people who didn't want to be in the craziness, right? And were willing to pay for it. So, but I think you see an opportunity, you go for it, and it's kind of like swinging a bat. You might miss or you might hit it out of the park, but don't let the fear stop you from swinging. I mean, the opportunity is going to pass, and sometimes it doesn't work out. You just have to have the courage, and sometimes it sinks and sometimes it swims, and it's good. So I would say that you see the opportunity and don't be afraid to test and take a chance. Especially in this day and age, you need very little money to get something started. We started WeFetch with like $250 and a social media account, right? And the community decided, yeah, this is what we want. And they started making orders. And then from there you can see, okay, is this worth investing more into? Because you can see there's ROI, and a business will tell you quickly if it's something that the market wants. And if you want to just listen to your customers and listen to the community, that's a really great start.
Okay, so what I'm taking from that is, and thank you for that, you're saying to us that it's often easy to start. Sometimes you can start small. You don't need a lot of money to start. You feel the fear and swing for it anyway, and listen to your community, get feedback from your community. So good points. Exactly. You can consider that. Yeah. If you are someone who is trying to think and you're thinking to yourself, well, I don't have that kind of way of thinking, at least you have that as a potential plan. Chris, what say you?
Yeah. So I agree with everything she said, but I like to look at it from a more academic approach, because when you have limited resources, you have to be careful how you utilize those resources. And, you need to do some serious research as well too. I mean, research could be as simple as just, paying attention. But I think if you're going into projects, the more skills you have and the more tools you have in your toolbox, the better opportunity you have to secure success. So as much as I think you should just go after your dreams as well too, I think there should be a calculated approach to that. And the world isn't short of tools. There are feasibility analysis that you can do. Whether that feasibility analysis, I mean, it includes different things, but you can look at it from a market does it product market fit? Does your product fit this particular market? You can look at it from a feasibility perspective. Do you have enough money to capitalize on this particular opportunity? And you could also look at it from a skills perspective. Do you, the entrepreneur, have the right skill set, or does your team have the right skill set to be able to capitalize on this opportunity? And once you have done that, then that gives you more data to move forward with. And then, like, I think what Lily was explaining was really the concept of a minimum viable product, where you can test something in the real world with a small amount of input to get the feedback. And then the market will tell you whether you need to adapt, which we call pivoting, and change your approach with the new information that you're getting, or if the information is good, and then you can build out that business and invest more into it. But I strongly advocate that you use the tools. The tools are there, and it eliminates you taking uncalculated risk, because there's a notion that entrepreneurs are just people who take willy-nilly risk and love risk. Most entrepreneurs I know are risk averse. They take big risks, but those risks are not just wild. Those risks are calculated. And I like to draw the analogy of daredevils, the adventure seekers who jump out planes and do all of this stuff. People may say, yeah, they take big risks, but they also take great security measures. And they check the equipment, they have the top of the best of the equipment, they do the training, they do all this stuff. So what they're doing is mitigating the risk of failure by improving their skill set and providing themselves with the right tools to be able to achieve success. Because, as we all know, success is different for different people. And success is, if you're starting from zero, success could be the difference between, failure could be the difference between not eating for the next 6 months or eating. If you're at a different socioeconomic level, failure may mean, okay, let's move on to the next project. And I think we have to look at it from that perspective, because a lot of people are fearful because they don't have the kind of money that they need to invest. And I mean, not talking about mega money, but they are fearful of losing what they have. What I say to that is mitigate the risk of failure by arming yourself with the correct tools. And the tools will tell you whether you are doing the right thing. And it boils back down, we'll go into this deeper later, but it boils down to what is the value you are offering to the community or to your market. Have you identified your markets, your market segments? What value are you providing for them? Is the value a pain that you are relieving, or is it a gain that you are creating? And these things are important to know. So I think the more people arm themselves with the tools, the better they would have a chance at success and mitigating the risk of failure.
All right, thank you for that, Chris. And thank you for identifying that there are some tools out there that we can consider incorporating as we look at the venture. So some people may be looking to just jump straight in and test whether or not they have the minimum viable product. And some people, you were suggesting, can also consider taking the approach of using tools as well. All right, now, Lily, you started WeFetch during a crisis. And probably the biggest crisis we've all in our modern era that we are all have had to live through. you're not the first entrepreneur who started a business during an economic downturn. What to you makes this a favorable time for anyone who's going to consider starting their own initiative? If you're speaking, we're not hearing you. I'm not sure why.
I mean, in the meantime, if she's stuck, I
Yeah,
could.
yeah,
Oh, okay, great.
Sorry.
Okay, you're hearing it. Go ahead. Go ahead, Lily.
Sorry. Hi, what was the question? Sorry.
You started BeFetch during a crisis.
Right.
You're not the first entrepreneur who started a business during an economic downturn. What do you think makes this a favorable time for anyone to consider starting their own initiative?
So I think in an economic downturn, you recognize what fat existed in the old system, like real fat that needs to be, and where the opportunity is for fat to be cut. Like if we look at Airbnb or Uber or even, WeFetch, you're looking at the resources that exist and you're saying, how can we all share in these resources to ensure a better, more efficient product, right? And if you're in the business of cutting fat, then you're in the business of adding value, right? Right. Yeah. So that's what this, and it gives you just laser clarity on where the fat is. Everybody can see it for the first time, where it is on their bank statements, or just because efficiency is so important. And then you end up with something that you've cut the fat, and then you've ended up with something that creates this additional value that we didn't have before. So I think that also it's just, if you can provide value in a crisis to someone, you create that virality, because the community's recognizing, and so you can't pay for that advertising, and that advertising would cost you so much when things are at the peak and nobody's really listening. Like it just provides a lot of clarity for, and there's a lot of need during this time.
Okay, thank you. We have a question coming in. What are some of the areas of entrepreneurial opportunities for Barbados? I don't know, Chris, if you want to take that one.
I mean, the thing with entrepreneurship is this, right? It's not about, okay, these are areas. You, the entrepreneur, have to, you, the prospective entrepreneur, have to look at the environment and see where you can add value. And I think the bottom line boils down to value, as Lily correctly said. Where people are looking for value in their life, regardless of where it is. So it is not about any one particular space. It is where you can add that value, whether it be a new product that addresses a new need, or whether it be an old product that operates in a more efficient way, as Lily put it, as trimming the fat. Or is it a new gain that you're going to offer someone, or is it a pain that you're going to relieve in a different way? So I don't think there's any, clear-cut way of saying, well, these are where the opportunities are. If you wanted to drop ballpark figures, you could say, ballpark ideas, you could say, well, renewable energy is a great entrepreneurial space, but how many people have the opportunity to buy in to big solar technology that is going to be a buy-in at probably, between $3 and $5 million if you want to do a solar farm or something like that. So it really depends on you, the entrepreneur, how much money you have to invest, what you want to get in. And entrepreneurship doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be into a huge venture. It could be a chicken farm at the back, but running efficiently. It could be planning food or doing whatever you do, but take it from an entrepreneurial approach. And the key is always about value, understanding your market, understanding who is your market, understanding what the quality of the value that you are providing to them. And in this particular environment, I would say that this is a good time for entrepreneurship from the perspective of this, right? Most people generally don't like change. Human beings are creatures of habit. we get into our routines and we like them. And change is a struggle for most people. You try to implement a new program in a company, nobody wants to change from the old because they have to learn new information. People are generally not receptive to change. They're fearful sometimes. There are a whole heap of factors that contribute to people not liking change. But what COVID has done, it has forced us all to change abruptly. And what you need as an entrepreneur is people being willing to change and try your new idea, your new product. But generally, in a normal environment, you have to do so much. Like Lily was saying, so much advertising and stuff to get people to be aware first, to be interested second, to consider third, and then to purchase fourth to your idea or product. But what COVID has done is force people to change immediately. Can't leave home, full stop. That's law. So now you got to try to figure out stuff. So everybody is forced to change. And that creates an incredible environment for entrepreneurs to capitalize on the fact that people have to change and provide something that change that they have to go to is offering in an easier, more efficient, cheaper, faster, better way. And I think that is what COVID has done for us. And I think, going forward, it would probably make especially when it comes to our operating in a digital environment. I mean, even now, uh, 8 months ago, even 6 months ago, this webinar we may have been in Kidsville School of Business, and it may be,
yes. Yeah. And
even
so
even if just the panelists were there,
yeah,
but now
we
are forced to operate in a digital environment, and everybody's adapting to it. So it's creating favorable conditions.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I would say to the person who put forward the question that there really has been a lot of discussion that things that support that online environment are really seen as perhaps potential growing areas for business, because there really is a perception that that's not going to change. It's not going to go away, and we're going to be doing a lot more things online and so on. Now, we received some questions overnight. And one of the questions that I received was from someone wanting to understand, or they describe themselves as a year-old entrepreneur. What strategies would you identify for overcoming fear, being bold and brash, and having confidence in yourself and your product or services? So I'll ask you, Lily, maybe to start with that one. This is someone who's a relatively new entrepreneur. They want to know what strategies you would identify for overcoming fear, being bold and brash, and having confidence in yourself and your product or services.
So there's a quote that my mom used to tell me when I was growing up, and it said, be bold and mighty forces will come to your aid. And it's really true, right? You have to be bold and mighty forces will come to your aid. But confidence is an inside job. And I think for sure, for females especially, it's competence. Like, confidence is determined by competence, or your perspective of your own competence, right? Unfortunately, like, we see men, they could go up on stage and talk whatever they want to talk, and they could say, oh my God, and his confidence just leads everything, whether he knows what he's talking about or not. You do see that. But with women, everything has to be perfect. Like, they need to know how everything is and understand everything, and be prepared for every question, and but so educate yourself as much as you can. Watch YouTube. There's so many resources online available, courses, just to make sure that you know as much as you possibly can about your product and your area and that you are as confident as possible. It's like going into an exam. If you go into the exam and you know everything, you're going to be confident. If you go into the exam afraid that you might not know everything, you're not as confident. So I really do think, and then eventually, step by step, brick by brick, you'll build your confidence as you get asked, as the community starts to ask you to come on webinars or go on stage or take this call or partner with this person, and your brand starts to grow. The confidence will start to grow as well. So everything in time, but be bold and mighty forces will come to your aid. If you just step out there and be bold, it'll start to come to you. everything. The information that you need will come to you. The customers that you need will come to you. The guidance that you need will also come to you.
Okay, and coincidentally, the person asking the question is in fact female, so that could be very good advice. And I would also say this, that one of the things we always teach in our leadership programs is that you don't have to be perfect to step out and try something. And I think sometimes a lot of the fear that we have and the concern and the reason we're not willing to step out there and try, as you mentioned, Lily, and being bold, is because we are worried we're not going to be perfect. And I think, Chris, you mentioned this as well, that you're taking calculated risks. So you recognize that even if you try it and it doesn't work, that at least you can learn something from it and you can move forward from that. So Chris, go ahead.
No, I'm saying one of the other important things that you need to be aware of is that you got to increase the speed of learning. And I think this is where entrepreneurs benefit a lot, because we learn fast. The faster you learn, the faster you fail, and the faster you learn, the faster you grow. So this is the concept of the minimum viable product. So let me test the market with something small. Let me see how the market responds to that. Ooh, they didn't respond so well. Okay, great, good. Learn, don't do that again. Let me try something else. How they reacted to it? Did it mean that I needed to do a different iteration of it, or some different version or something? Or was it just such a bad idea that I need to scrap it completely? Let me learn, let me try something different, and let me see what happens. So I get a different response. Okay, so the market is telling me that they want something different. So let me try and create that different thing. So I'm learning quickly. And that is the important thing. You know, there will always be people brighter, smarter than you, but their ability to learn as fast as you may not be as high. And if you can learn quickly, that is what quick and adaptability is a big thing in this. And in terms of being bold, when you, as I said, I always advocate the education part of it, not just because I'm an educator, but because it has helped me tremendously in my life. When you learn the skills, you just cut down your learning time. So something that may take you, say, a month to learn, if you got the right tools, you may be able to learn that in a week and adapt. So the more tools you have under your belt, the more you will identify possible risks, and the faster you'll be able to address them, which means the faster you learn, the more risks you mitigate, and the larger percentage of success you may attain because of that knowledge that you have. And that brings a level of confidence.
Okay, it's very glad that you mentioned that as well. And I'm glad to say this because a lot of people have a perception that entrepreneurs are people who are not pursuing education and are not pursuing learning and so on. But both of you have mentioned, you've mentioned education, Lily's mentioned her education as well. And you both have talked about the need to be constantly engaged in learning. So very glad to hear that mentioned, to recognize really that it takes those kinds of skills, that awareness, and that constant knowledge building in order to succeed as an entrepreneur. Now I have another question from the same person who sent the one last night. They've said, it seems business is about relationships, how to build an effective network to support business sustainability. They're asking that question. How do you build an effective network to support business sustainability? Thoughts from you? Lily, you're going, who's going first? Chris, you're going?
So okay. The way I look at it is this, right? I mean, some people say your network is your net worth. And to some extent, you know, these things are true. But if you are focusing on just creating a network, you're probably not doing the right thing, in my opinion. I think if you're focusing on value and you're focusing on building what you have, you know, like Lily said, be bold and the forces will come to you. You know, once you're creating quality, you will attract the right people towards you, and your network will eventually grow because of the product and the quality that you're bringing to the table. If you're focusing on bringing that to the table without doing the things that will attract it, then you're probably going, you know, a cart before the horse. But I would say focus on quality, focus on building you will naturally have people who you will need to engage with in any venture that you are engaging in. These are your key partners. And through your key partners, you will build your network organically. I would say let your network be built organically based on the fact that you are providing quality and people are coming to you for the right reason. If you are trying to do that in an artificial way, I think that probably is not the way to go.
Okay, thank you. Lily, did you want to add anything? I'll unmute you. Go ahead.
Oh, wait, can you hear me?
I'm hearing you now.
Okay. I think the network, it provides a level of trust, right, which is helpful for business. But also, your network gives you opportunities, right? As I'm just thinking back to when I was at school and coming out and building your career, right? And this is why you just said your network is your net worth. Chris just said that. And it's because you become the people you spend the most time with, right? Your network gives you opportunities, not just like financial opportunities, but ideas and things, and guide you they guide you in a certain way. So it's important to try to develop that. Like I know that this in COVID, and this is what I've done to build mine, is I would try to go to seminars and conferences, and that, if there was an area of interest that I had in a special area, I'd try to go there, and I would find other like-minded people who may be interested in building a similar business. And then you can find partners. Partners are very important in business. Like, it's very difficult to do everything yourself, and it's also not as fun to do everything yourself. And it's not as and there are going to be hard days as an entrepreneur. And when you have another business partner or someone who's also depending on you, it's like going to the gym alone. Who wants to do that? And so that's important. That's why business school is important, because then you generate a network that you can go and build things with. And that's really the name of the game. Who can you build with, right? Rome wasn't built alone. Who can you build, whether that be customers or partners or other stakeholders in your industry. But I think it's important to really, that's very important. And if you think about reasons why, these large Ivy League schools, it's not that the education is any different. It's the networking opportunity that they have, and that's why they're so attractive. So, and now you can do it online. Like, reach out. I've done this. If LinkedIn, you can reach anybody you want on LinkedIn. You can get for $100 a year or something. You can get a premium membership, and you can message anybody in your industry. And you might have to message 10 people, or 20 people, and say, hey, look, I'm starting this business in this area. I know that I've been looking at your business, and I'm really inspired by it. I'm not sure if you can help me, but could you give me any advice? And maybe you message 20 people, and only one person gives one nugget of advice. Like, that is treasure. And it's there. So this is all virtualization. What we have here with and what's happening with Zoom or what's happening with LinkedIn. So you don't have to be at the seminar with the same person who happened, but you can reach out, and it's just a Google search away.
All right, and there are a lot of people who are identifying LinkedIn, you're right, and other social media platforms as a means for them to make those kinds of connections as well. Another question coming in, and this one is targeted to you, Lily. So I'll start by asking you, and Christy, if you want to, you can add as well. What are some of the things that you brainstorm about in your business? So somebody's looking to pick your brain. What are some of the things that you brainstorm about in your business?
Chris, do you want to go first, or would you like me to go first?
Well, the question was directed at you, so I guess they want to know your opinion.
Right now, customer acquisition, marketing. How do you acquire a larger customer base? That's that's a big challenge. That's the challenge that I have right now, and the most effective way to scale through the Caribbean. I mean, that's a really great thing about now with technology. We're not just stuck, before, decades before, we're limited to our own market share in Barbados. But really, we cannot continue to cannibalize this market. It's too small for all of us we can't grow that way. We need to take our services and our skills and we need to sell it abroad, sell it throughout CARICOM, sell it throughout the world. And there's no reason why we can't do that with this virtualization that is so real right now. You can build something here and you can sell it anywhere. And we really need to be thinking about that, and the best way and the most efficient way to do that. Those are also, obviously, I'm constantly thinking about other business opportunities and where the market's going and what we really need. I really think that I could go. It's a broad question, and I could go on forever. But I think the biggest challenge is that we cannot just continue to limit ourselves to hair. We need to be selling. This is why tourism is so important to us, because it's something that we're bringing income in, and we're not cannibalizing our own market. So what can we do to bring from in? We're a very small country, right? We don't need that much of increased income into the country to really revolutionize our lives and revolutionize the country. So that's really a big idea that all of us have to really be thinking about.
All right. And the important point there that I'm taking from what you're saying is really what you're brainstorming about are the strategic aspects of the business. So you're not just brainstorming about the minutiae or the operational details, but you're really looking at how the business can be more and how it needs to grow and so on. And so that dovetails nicely with someone else who was asking, the questions now coming in, and chat is scrolling faster than I can, but someone else was asking. So Chris, if you want to take a stab at this one, do you think COVID will be a catalyst for local entrepreneurs to explore opportunities within other Caribbean nations? And I suppose I'd like to hear your perspectives on that.
Definitely. I mean, and Liddy just laid it out. One of my mentors always used to say he thinks everybody in Barbados should hold hands and form a chain around the island. Then everybody doing a boat turn and look outwards, because that's where the market is. And I think this is the perfect opportunity for us to look at where are some of our brothers and sisters in other regional territories may not have some of the things that we can provide, and look to those markets. Sometimes we get too stuck in looking at in our internal market. And I like to say this, right? I mean, there are different levels of entrepreneurship, right? So the big corporations, on the levels of the Kippen Simpsons and the Derek Fosters and such. Then there are also medium-sized entrepreneurs, there's small business entrepreneurs. So I just want to make a distinction that it just because we may be speaking about different areas, that it doesn't exclude you who are running a little shop in your area doing something that is entrepreneurial or putting an entrepreneurial twist to what you're doing. The reality is we need all, there will be less of the larger ones, there'll be less of the, maybe a little bit more of the tech ones and stuff, but we need the automotive arts, we need the big Barbados, we need the corner shops that doing entrepreneurial things, bringing in new products. We need the people who are, there's a guy that was in my area driving through the truck tooting the horn, bringing vegetables in my area. Nobody don't sell vegetables in this area, but he saw it as an opportunity. So the thing is, entrepreneurial thinking and the entrepreneurial approach applies to everyone. In the cultural industries, we had some very interesting debates recently about selling your music abroad, and the fact that crop over is stopped now. People start producing music. Where do we see our markets and all that kind of stuff? So I think entrepreneurship needs to permeate through every single facet of our society. We should be teaching this thing from primary school, so that people come up with the entrepreneurial way of thinking. And you see it all the time. You know, we send technical students to technical schools or vocational schools and teach them all of these skills, but we don't teach them about being self-employed and being entrepreneurial and starting their own efficient little businesses that can do things efficiently. And as I said, I agree that, you know, we need to look at the large ones exporting who are export ready and are thinking about selling the services and products overseas. But we also need to look at those who are operating within the space, because everyone needs to pull weight, and the weakest link breaks the chain.
Okay. All right. So what you're both talking about is really the opportunity, the reality that we all need to have that different mindset, that entrepreneurial mindset. And there's a lot of debate and a lot of discussion about whether or not Barbadians have the entrepreneurial mindset. But both of you certainly are showing that, and we know we have many examples. There are authors who've written about this, people who have been investigating this, about the mindset of Barbadians when it comes to starting business. So I'm going to ask both of you, because you grew up in different circumstances. Lily, you grew up in a house where entrepreneurship was already happening. I mean, I think everybody in Barbados knows the name Hannah Properties and has heard your mother over the years. And Chris, you may not have grown up in that kind of environment, but it obviously was a part of your mindset and makeup. So I'm going to ask both of you, what are your thoughts on that entrepreneurial mindset? Is it there? Is it missing? Do we, what do we need to do to get it?
In Barbados, I think globally we're seeing a change, you know, multiple streams of income, multiple streams of passive income, like we're starting to see it even with people with large corporate jobs or still have something on the side, or a side hustle or some online venture or something. You see it like Amazon stores, Shopify stores, it's all available. I think the entrepreneurship mindset is for sure, if you see it in your family, like I had 2 entrepreneurial family members, parents, so that was helpful, but it's something that can be cultivated. There's read biographies. There's so many biographies of incredible entrepreneurs that you can read. And I was reading them from young. I think like 13, 14, I picked up my first biography. I think it was Richard Branson biography. And biographies are amazing. They give you courage. You know, if he can do it, and you know, he was dyslexic and he had all these things happen against him, and he's still able to build one of the largest airlines in the world. You know, that's really helpful. So I think naturally we're all entrepreneurs at heart, inside, you know, and I think maybe fear doesn't help. So you have to really cultivate that courage, and you do that through education again. But I think for sure Barbadians, we're proud, we're very educated, we have all the ability, and I'm seeing more than ever now, we're seeing entrepreneurship at its, you know, at its prime, you know, whether that be vendors on the side of the road that were not there before, or mask makers who were not there before, who are working in the hotels, who are now making masks, you know, working for themselves. So I think, you know, entrepreneurship is very natural.
Okay, thank you. Chris, any thoughts before?
I mean, there are lots of different levels of this thing, right? I think that, yes, as I said, entrepreneurship is at different levels. There are basically 4 levels that you could be looking at: the tech people, the large companies, the small business, and the micro entrepreneurs, right? And I mean, yes, you could be reading biographies and looking at this stuff, but many times, if you come from a working class environment, you know, it is, you know, sometimes these things sound like fairy tales that are beyond your reach. It's definitely been that in my personal journey. But I think that you need to look at many different aspects and many different kinds of entrepreneur success. Aren't only the large companies. There are some smaller entrepreneur businesses that you don't really hear about that much, and you need to find your inspiration from wherever you can. In terms of Barbadians being entrepreneurial, I mean, I think, you know, we are resilient people. You know, our history makes us resilient. And if you look back at the history of Barbados, I mean, from discovery time, right? We were a hub. We were an entrepreneurial hub. Everything that came across the Atlantic stopped in Barbados first because of our geography. And you know, as a result, Bridgetown in particular was a bustling place of entrepreneurial activity. You know, from the oldest profession in the world to rum, you know, being created. I mean, it's a serious mix, you know, but rum was created in the corner, I think the corner of James Street and Robert Street, you know, and you know that in itself is an entrepreneurial venture, something that people still enjoy to this day. You know, all the ships coming across, the Stevie Doers and all this stuff, all this is entrepreneurial activity. We still have the remnants of the only remaining screw dock in the world, you know, in Bridgetown, which was in itself an entrepreneurial venture, you know. Yes,
Okay, so what I'm, sorry.
no, say we don't necessarily need that kind of entrepreneurship right now, but it has been ingrained in us, and I think that over years we have been, you know, less encouraged to go out and attain that. We growing up, you would always hear go to school and learn and get a good job. You know what I mean? But I think now people are really realizing the value of entrepreneurship and realizing that, you know, their children could have dreams and start their own companies and their own businesses and do things and work, create their own employment and create employment for others and be successful whilst doing so. So I just think it takes, we've always had it, but it has been latent for a while. But I think that, you know, this period is going to definitely bring a resurgence in that entrepreneurial and enterprising spirit of Barbadians.
Okay. Another question we have coming in from the audience. Who motivates you, and which authors or influencers would you highly recommend checking out?
Okay, so I am really into this, and I've been reading, you know, a lot, but one of my favorites is Tony Robbins, Jim Rohn. There's Tony Robbins, Jim Rohn, Les Brown. All these people are very positive, and you know, it's in entrepreneurship, it's tough, and also, and you need to make sure that you are listening to the right thing, and even back to networking and being the people that you know, becoming the top 5 people that you spend most time with. It's also most time listening and reading, and who are the people that are you surrounding yourself that inspire you, and that's really important. So those would be mine.
Okay.
So,
Chris?
I mean, so
Who motivates you, and which authors or influencers?
I come from the arts, right? So a lot of different things inspire me, and you know, from a business perspective, you know, I like reading not necessarily whole books, but I like reading stuff that has what I want. I mean, a couple of books I like, you know, Rich Dad Poor Dad, Cashflow Quadrant, The Richest Man in Babylon. The one I like, you know, coming from my socioeconomic background, was The Millionaire Next Door, which really is a look at how do you, you know, basically how do you create wealth, and how does the people who are not the mainstream big, you know, opulent millionaires, but the people who, you know, worth 2-3 million, that own a little small business, that you know, do all the right things and not flashy and flamboyant. You know, I'm not attracted to flashy and flamboyant. I like tools. So, like, for example, these are things that are on my desk, you know, things that relate to tools, you know what I mean? So I think once you have the tools give you the confidence that you need. I mean, I also network with a lot of I've been blessed to have some really good mentors, people like Everett Eastman, who is the CEO of Sky Mall. I mean, from the start. I think, you know, really good guidance. People like Peter Booz, who constantly, you know, inspires me and forces me to do my best. And, you know, I think you really have to look at the people around you. As I said before, sometimes, you know, it's good to read books and people get motivation from different areas. But as I said, there are different levels of entrepreneurship. And for some of those who may be, you know, coming from the working class, coming into entrepreneurship, you know, sometimes when you look at read these biographies, it seems like a Cinderella story, and sometimes it leads to to, you know, demotivate you. But you have to find that inspiration, and you have to find that hunger to want more, to see people who are doing well and wonder why, and explore why they are. And this is why I believe in the skills and the tools, because the skills and the tools are what are going to give you the confidence and the ability to achieve all that you dream. You know, inspiration is one thing, but inspiration, this is just my personal perspective. Inspiration is great, but at the end of the day, you have to get there. And to get in there requires the tools. And the tools allow you to make less mistakes, mitigate more risk, and increase your chances of success. Because sometimes some of these people that you read and you know, their backgrounds are very different to ours. And you know, is you know, it's like reading about spaceships and you trying to get a boat launch, you know.
Okay, so I understand. What I'm taking from what you were saying, Chris, is you are perhaps suggesting to the person asking the question that while it's okay to have people who motivate you, it's okay to read the biographies, read the books, read the inspirational material, that you also want to recognize that sometimes there may be a distance between their reality and yours. So thank you for drawing that to our attention as well. And I would just like to throw into the mix that I also like the book entitled The Alchemist. So if anybody's interested, I suggest that you check that out as well. Yeah, I also like that one. So here's another question. What do you say about passion as it relates to entrepreneurial activity? Some say it can be a blessing or a curse. What say you? Does passion matter?
So without passion, we don't have energy. And without energy, we don't have anything. So you need to have, and that I think it's enormously important, whether that be passion for building a business or passion for it creates that energy that's needed. Like building a business is enormously energy intensive. It's like morning till morning, you know, that's the amount of work that you really need to put in to get it going. And if you don't have the passion, you're either not going to be able to get off the runway, or you'll crash very quickly.
Okay.
So when I hear about passion, it reminds me of a Pirelli tire ad. It said that, you know, power is nothing without control. And it is so true. I mean, as much as we need, I believe in passion, you need that passion, that fire to burn you. You need to be losing sleep at night. You need to be excited. And I get that. And I do that. So I have that sometimes. But at the same time, I keep advocating the tools. Sometimes passion could be a weapon against you. You know, it could be the driving force to get you to where you need to go. But I've seen it over and over again where people are so passionate about what they're doing that it blinds them of the realities that exist. And sometimes success, so your passion is blinkering you like this, but sometimes success is right here. But you're so blinkered that you can't see to pivot and achieve that success. And you know, you see, and you know, the thing is this. So it depends on what kind of entrepreneur you are. So some entrepreneurs are, I am about being successful and I will try my hand at several different things. So those people are more likely to pivot and see the reality of what it is. So they probably don't even experience what I'm talking about. But now the people who are entrepreneurs based around their talent and skill set. So like, for example, if you're in the arts, if you're an artisan or you're, you know, mechanic or something, sometimes people are so passionate about what they're doing and why they want to do it. They lose focus of what is the market saying. Does the market want this, or do you want this? And that could be a danger. And sometimes we need to pivot and go in a different direction to find the success that we want. Because then you could be just banging your head against the wall, and passion can do that for you. So I would say be passionate, but keep your eyes open. You know, take away the blinkers so you can have a 360 vision, keep looking around, have your head on a swivel, and the tools help you to do that. Because if you do a feasibility analysis, regardless of how passionate you are, if you do a feasibility analysis and it tells you, okay, your team doesn't have the right skills to do this. Okay, you don't have enough money to do this. Okay, the market doesn't really fit what it is you want to do. And, you know, maybe you probably should think about doing something else. So the tools help you focus your passion in the right direction.
Okay. I think the answers that the two of you are giving us are so amazing. I love it because it's like you both have different perspectives on almost everything. I think that's so fantastic. There are some key things that you agree on in terms of the fact that passion has a role. But Lily's suggesting that you need passion. Without that, you won't have any heart, and heart gives you energy. And Chris, you're saying that passion can sometimes blinker you from the prospects. So I'm taking both of those and putting them together and say passion has a real play in what you're able to do, but you still want to be aware that you should not let it blind you. So thank you very much for offering that question from the audience who asked it, about the fact that it can sometimes be a positive and sometimes be a negative. And we have another one here coming up where someone's talking about the role of survival instincts. So the person's asking, do you think that the entrepreneurship mindset activates or can sometimes activate via your survival instincts kicking in? And if so, in those circumstances, so where survival instincts have kicked in, does that make the person more determined than someone else who just starts an entrepreneurship venture otherwise?
I was talking about this earlier, you know, how suddenly we have lots of entrepreneurships in this time of crisis. And naturally, the survival instinct is to go out there and figure out how you can create value again, not just be valuable to an employer, but to actually create a market where there was none before, right? And see an opportunity where there was none before. In terms of survival instincts and need, I don't know what it's like to, but like you hear this with mothers and young children, and they, you know, single mothers, and they have this real need to aggressively go after it because they have these to provide for. I think that's very real, and that's a real survive. You have a real reason, and you see parents do say this. I'm not a parent yet, but I have heard parents say that you know, once the children came along, they just had to be so much more focused because they had dependents. So maybe I mean, I guess Chris will have another angle, but I think there's pros and cons of it. Obviously, it's a much more lavish or luxurious position to be in if you don't have the survival or dependence relying on you, but it can be used as leverage to be successful.
Okay, Chris.
So you know, there's a saying, the necessity is the mother of all invention, right? And when do you have the necessity to do something? You know, it's stronger. So it's like you know, the fight or flight instinct. You have a higher instinct and a higher incentive to be successful. So if failure means, so I use this analogy. I like analogies, sorry, but I use this one all the time. It's like walking a tightrope, you know. If you walk in a tightrope and you got all these safety nets under you, you know, you're more inclined to take a chance. If falling off of that tightrope means concrete, it's a whole different ball game, you know. So you will see people walking across these things and, you know, fall off in the bunks say, yeah, get back, I'm gonna go again. You know, it's all good and, you know, hunky-dory. But when that safety net ain't there, you gotta be laser sharp because failure is death. So if you got children and you've got all out on the line, you gotta pay attention. It's a whole different instinct. And that is a great motivator for entrepreneurship. But at the same time, you could be running the risk, like the same passion, because the instinct is so high, you're willing to take more chances And sometimes those chances are the ones that cripple you. So I'm always, it's not just because I teach at Kidsville School of Business, but I'm telling you this because it has happened in my life. Learn the tools. I look back, after learning the tools that I use and I teach, I look back at ventures I went into before studying entrepreneurship on this level, and I realized, wow, if I had this sort of knowledge back then, I could have made this success. I could see where this didn't work and why it didn't work and that kind of stuff. So when you learn the tools, and the tools are hard to find, you know what I mean? The tools are out there, all over the internet. And you could find them and you can learn them. Kidsville does the School of Business, did the Lean Launchpad program that people who are unemployed could come, the webinars like this. But you need to arm yourself with tools to mitigate the risk of failure. Because sometimes the passion and the instinct and the drive to do things sometimes drives you in the wrong direction. You still, imagine yourself in a boat. Yeah, you're in the middle of the sea. Yeah, you want to get to shore. You got 2 oars, you got some energy and you're oaring. But you want to be oaring in the right direction. And that's what the tools that do for you. They focus you in the right directions, like that GPS, keeping you on track. Yeah.
Okay. We have someone asking, how do you think the arts, so voice, dance, theater, musical arts, visual arts, can be used as a tool to improve business and or complement business development?
Could I start with this one? Because
I'm directing that straight at you.
So I'm a musician by profession. That was my original thing, it's just that, later days my career started shifting, but I'm a musician. I started at Berklee College of Music, and that's what I do. I promoted shows and events and that kind of stuff. I love it. I still do it now. I still gig and I still do weddings or when before COVID. But so the thing is this, right? So the brain is split in 2 parts. You got the left hemisphere and the right hemisphere. The left hemisphere controls the right side of your body, which is the more logic side of who we are, right? The right side of your brain is the creative side, which controls the left side, which is the more creative side. That's why you will find left-handers are generally more creative thinkers than right-handed people, right? And so if you can activate the creative side of your brain, it helps to bring a creative aspect to what you're doing. And like we were saying, it all boils down to value. What value are you bringing? And if you could bring a creative approach to why people want something different, or what would be different, how could you make this better, faster, cleaner, smarter, cheaper? That is creativity. When I'm thinking, I usually use as a musician, I think of my problems from a musical perspective, I approach it from that creative perspective. Sometimes I feel overwhelmed with the amount of things I got to do. And in music, we got this thing, if you're doing reharm techniques, they say break it down to basic changes. Don't mind how much chords it got. It is basically, this is a 1 chord going to 5 chord going to 6 chord. You could put in a multiple chords in between there. So reduce it to basic changes. What do I need to do? What is the focus? What do I really need to do? So you can bring creative approaches from the arts. And I think that arts training is most important in the school systems and stuff. I mean, we do have it in the school system, but the more you explore your creative side, the more rounded a human being it creates, and a more rounded approach to the problem solving. Because most problem solving requires creative thinking, and entrepreneurs are basically problem solvers. We are solving a problem. The problem that we are solving is creating value. So you want like ladies' business. You're home. You need to get some stuff, but you can't go and get it yourself. So you need it delivered. So she creatively thought about the process and said, okay, great. So this is what we can do. You creatively solving problems, and in solving those problems, you're either alleviating pain or creating gains. And in doing so, you're creating value that you can price the market for profit.
All right, thank you very much. And clearly that is one of your passions.
There
So,
you go.
so Lily, I'm gonna ask you this one. How difficult is it, or easy is it to start a business in Barbados in terms of registration and licensing and so on? And are there as many bureaucratic or red tape areas as exists in existing in other Caribbean territories?
So I'm a lawyer by profession, and so this is what we do. But with with WeFetch, I got that business registered within 3 or 4 days, right? Well, because I was super persistent. I went, the registry knew that I had a need, and things were about to shut down, and and I also got a bank account very, very quickly. But the ease of doing business in Barbados isn't, and in the Caribbean maybe even, isn't as easy. Or some places, we've also registered in Trinidad, and that's been quite easy. Once you have, but at the same time, a lengthy process. It's not something that, in St. Lucia, for instance, you can get a business registered in a couple of days. In Trinidad, it took 2 or 3 weeks, right? In Barbados, generally it takes, 2 or 3 weeks. And then to get a bank account, it also it can take anywhere from a week in WeFetch's case to 9 months to never in some cases. So again, I think one of the most important things about entrepreneurship is being persistent. In Barbados, you have to literally, in order to sometimes to get things done, you have to physically go down there and stay there until it's done. And you have to convey and you have to sell a story to the stakeholders, to the people that can help you, so that you can get through. And again, be bold, and mighty forces will come to your aid, and persistent, and you'll get it. But our generation really needs to step up, and it's up to us to make things better around here, and make things easier. And things should be easier at Kaipo. It should be very easy to do business. All of it. Like, even I do a lot of property transactions. In this age of virtualization, we should be able to get everything done within a few days. It shouldn't take us months and months and months to do a transaction. So that's all, but it requires digitization. It requires a new culture in our registries of swiftness. We need, really and truly, productivity. As we look forward in the next couple of decades, and I was just thinking this here just now while I was sitting here speaking to you, we have to figure out how we can be as productive as we were in a year, in a month, right? So that we can get 10 years in 1 year, because that's the type of growth we need to really be able to survive. I was watching the IDB the Caribbean Development Bank did a presentation for BIT in September, and Justin Ram was the one who presented, and he said that on the current trajectory, if we don't step up, if we don't do something quickly, the Caribbean will be the poorest region on earth by 2050, right? And we would have lost a lot of our population. So we really need to we have to fight for it like our lives depend on it, because it really does. We have to grow and create value and get faster and swifter and more efficient and fight for it, and stay up late and wake up early and create the future like our forefathers created for us. They went through a lot of pain to create what we have here, and now we have to make sure that we continue to take the torch.
Okay. And thank you. And Justin Ram, you're right. He also mentioned that, if anybody's been following all of our series, he also mentioned that as well when he made an appearance in one of our programs. And I think that really is a part of the discussion that we're having a lot now, that need for digitization. Just to say that there are surveys and so on out there that look at the ease of doing business in the region. And so if anyone really is interested in getting that information, you can just go online and Google it. There are reports that are done to talk about and to make the comparison between the various territories in terms of how easy it is to register businesses and so on in each of those territories. Now, Chris, we have another question for you. I know that you have focused quite a bit on education. The question asks, is there evidence that entrepreneurship education produces more successful entrepreneurs?
Well, I'm not sure if there have been any specific studies, but the study shows the failure. I mean, the percentage of failure of small businesses within the first year or two is somewhere close to the 90%, right? And this is a fact. So the whole idea is to arm small businesses with the correct tools to mitigate the risk and the reasons why they fail. Sometimes the reasons they fail are being underfinanced. And sometimes that's because going into it, they didn't do a financial feasibility study to realize how much money they would need to capitalize on this venture. And then halfway through the venture, they realize that they don't have enough money, they can't raise the money. And then as a result, the venture failed. So maybe if they had the knowledge, they would have realized they needed more capitalization. They would have, put it in the correct format and try to attract whatever funding they need, whether it be loans, venture capital, angel investor, whatever the case may be. And that would have been another successful business. The thing is this, right? The more you know about what you're doing, the better chance you have at making a better go at it. And as I said, I can't tell you that there are any specific studies done, but the reality of the situation, we know what the failure rate is. And we know that within that failure rate, lots of people don't necessarily abide by the necessary tools because they run into it with an idea, winging it, right? And you're gonna significantly reduce the chances for success if you do that. And by arming yourself with the correct tools, you stand a better chance. And one of the reasons for this is this too, right? There are no barriers to entry in entrepreneurship. So for example, in the legal profession, if you want to be a lawyer in Barbados and practice, you gotta have a law degree, you gotta go to Hewitt school, you gotta get accepted to the bar. You could be the most brilliant lawyer in the world, you cannot operate in this jurisdiction unless you have accepted the bar in that way, right? But in entrepreneurship now, any person could just decide, well, I got an idea, I can start this business, I can try a thing. And in trying that thing, they haven't done all the research they need to do. They haven't applied all the tools to find out if it is something that is worthwhile. What's the size of the market? Is the market interested in this? What are the substitutes? What's the competition in that particular market space, etc. And as a result, the chances of success are way lower than if they had the skills. So I would encourage you or anyone that if you want to get into the entrepreneurship and you personally want to achieve success, the more tools you can arm yourself with, then the better chance you will have at creating a successful business. If you're one of those people that walk across a tightrope and you can bounce back up and you can start 15 businesses and hope that one is successful, well, then you may not have a problem. But if you're one of those people that, that have somebody asked about the survival instinct, if the survival instinct is kicking in and you really want to make sure you have a good go at this stuff, arm yourself with the correct tools and try to make informed decisions and do the right things that will lead you towards success.
All right, now we've come to 11:15, which is our official end time, but we have quite a few questions still that have come in from the audience, and I hope we could just run through them fairly quickly and at least be able to address them to some extent. We have someone who's asked this question and wrote it again because they wondered if I hadn't seen it, and I hadn't seen it, so thank you. Having seen the value of cashless transactions during COVID-19 that demanded social distancing, how do we effectively move Barbados towards a more permanent cashless economy as quickly as possible to aid local and external trade? I don't know if you want to start with that, Lily. I know that you are dealing with blockchain and cryptocurrencies.
Yeah. Efficiency is enormously important. Obviously, there's some areas in our current, it's not efficient. Cash is just not efficient. I mean, think about it. If you're not freedom, let's talk about freedom. Like, if you don't have access to a cashless method of payment, you're not really free. Like financial freedom, is is one thing, but if you have to be in a certain place to make a transaction or trust that a person is going to take your money and spend it and pay a bill, how is that freedom? And we're all trying, or if we have to, or we can't trade with Dominica because it's more expensive to the forex between US to Barbados dollars to Eastern Caribbean dollars is more than what it would be if we did a transaction with Miami, then that's not freedom. You know, we don't really have the, and that's what we're all looking for. Like, we're really looking to increase our boundaries of freedom, right, or lack thereof. But and to create this space where it's really an environment where we have real financial inclusion. And it's very difficult to scale cash, even, you know, it's difficult to scale cash. And as we move into a more peer-to-peer environment, and maybe if we look at the next couple of decades, there's some really cool financial products that can come down the pipeline as a result of this cashless digital environment, whether that be purchasing a fraction of of equity in a piece of real estate, or a solar farm, or something that pays you dividends to your smart wallet every month. Or you can now do that in Jamaica and St. Kitts from Barbados, and you can benefit off of that area. So I think financial inclusion and creating greater participation, and also with WeFetch, like we decided at WeFetch that we only wanted to do cashless payments from the very beginning, right? That we learned a lesson early with cash, and we just were not about it. And also, we need to pay our drivers the same day, right? And in this micro economy, for these micro transactions, they need to be paid kind of the same time. So to have to do that, you know, but with a check or cash or regular payroll, it wasn't. And so they all opted to download M-Money. Right, and some of them didn't even have bank accounts. So there's some people in right here in Barbados that we talk to on a daily basis, or that work with us, that don't have bank accounts, and so they're limited to this cash transaction. When you can put people online, you can give them a bit like an M-Money wallet, and they can pay their bills online. That means they don't have to go and catch a bus to go and do things, and they can, and that hour becomes more productive because they can spend time on a freelance website selling services to the US, whether that be virtual assistant or accounting services, because they didn't have to go and do that. So I think it's just it's very necessary. It's definitely very necessary for our future. It for sure is much more efficient as we enter this era of virtualization. And we have to push for it. Push for really user-friendly, and affordable digital cash solutions for businesses and for consumers.
All right, thank you. Chris, what are the legal ramifications if I do not register my business in Barbados if it is already registered in Trinidad, seeing that the internet now breaks all barriers?
I think that's a question that a lawyer should address more than I should. Those are the kind of things I would consult with my lawyer about.
Okay, so Lily, did you hear the question? What are the legal ramifications if I do not register my business in Barbados if it is already registered in Trinidad, seeing that the internet breaks all barriers?
Okay, so the reason why we incorporate in the first place is because of limited liability, right? It's a legal reason, because we want to make sure that if something happens, that I'm incubated, right? So, and also for banking reasons as well, you know, maybe if this is just, I know you asked for legal, but this is an area that I'm talking about. Unfortunately, in the Caribbean, we all have different currencies, and if we don't pay in our native currency, we end up having to pay in US. And as we know, there's ramifications against that. So Trinidadians don't want to use US dollars, Barbadians don't want to use US dollars. So we incorporate so that we can have Barbadian and Trinidad banking. But for the legal ramifications, it simply, if you decide you only want to have a Trinidadian company, it just means if you get sued in Barbados, that the Trinidad, you would have to come and ensure that either you'd have to be sued in that jurisdiction, they would have to sue you in that jurisdiction, or you would be brought to court in the Barbados jurisdiction. But either way, your Trinidadian company would be the one that would be liable. So if you wanted to split the risk, you could you have your Barbadian venture, and then that Barbadian venture would be responsible for the claims. But even then, you would still be able to. They still may be able to bring a secondary claim against the parent company in Trinidad or whatever the case may be. But really, the biggest problem is in the currency. A Trinidadian company can't have a Barbadian bank account, right? It's either a US or a Trinidadian bank account. So that's really the biggest problem.
Okay.
That's why digitization is so important. Like what the Eastern Caribbean is doing with their Eastern Bank central banking dollars, Eastern Caribbean central bank digital dollars. Like we really need an ecosystem like that for the Caribbean, so we can trade amongst ourselves in the Caribbean, not have to continuously revert to USD or have accounts in every single currency. It's a real hardship for small businesses. It's an expensive endeavor.
Okay. All right. And of course, because there are different laws governing business in different territories, that would also have an impact as well.
Yeah, for license, if you needed a special license, like if you're in the security space or the financial space, you need a special license, you would still have to, you would still need to ensure that you are covered under the jurisdiction that you're operating in.
Okay. All right. So Chris, this one then may be one for you. How does launching a product or service via free introductory offers hamper the market's perspective of where the business is at? Is this a successful method of launching?
The thing is this, right? You can't paint everything with one brush. It really depends on what product you are launching, in which market, to which market segment you're launching it to. So there are no hard and fast rules to say about, okay, if you drop a hammer off a roof and hit somebody's head and kill them. No, it really depends on, is it a rubber hammer? Does the person have on a hard hat? How high is the roof? So you have to make a conscious decision as an entrepreneur to decide how you're going to launch your business. There's nothing wrong with introductory offers. They have been used for years. Basically what you're trying to do, you are trying to engage the market that you are trying to get as your market. You're trying to reach them. So under normal circumstances, it's slightly hard to reach. But what you're doing is giving them something free to lure them in to taste the product to see if it's something that they would now, one, be aware of, two, be interested in, and three, consider purchasing. And you see it in supermarkets all the time. Special offer, introductory price is a tool that's been used for years. It's a marketing tool. But you have to know if your business can afford to do that and at what cost that is going to be, right? And this is why, having these tools are so important, because you need to calculate that into the price of the product that you're selling. So you may hide that into the cost of the overall product. So the person will say, okay, yeah, I'm getting this free offer, but that is factored into the price of the product itself. So it really depends on what you're doing. But as a rule, it is not a bad strategy. You need to engage your market somehow.
Okay, so we are coming close to 11:30, so we're going to make this really the wrap up for our discussion. So let me ask you this: what closing comments or piece of advice would you leave with our attendees as they move forward to consider pursuing entrepreneurial ventures for themselves? Who wants to go first?
Ladies first as always.
Oh my gosh. You said earlier, you have to mitigate your risk, right? So so your full-time can make you a salary, right? It can earn you an income. It can pay for your life. But your part-time I think that can make you a fortune, right? And your part-time can be, it can be after work, right? It can be 6 in the evening till 12 at night, right? Every single day. That compounds until you have something that is really of value. But I think it's very important. And if you're feeling something inside of you, you're saying to yourself that you need to create something yourself for yourself. It's the difference between owning something and renting something. Are you going to own your life, or are you going to rent a life from somebody else? And that like, you know, whether that be an employer, and it doesn't even have to be like, it doesn't even have to be a business. It can be investing. Investing is enormously important. You know, I think that 25% of it is earning the money, and you know, from a job or a business, you know, whether that be dividends from a business. But the 75% of it is investing it, and that is a job in itself. Just learning and growing in that way. So if if there's a voice in your head telling you that entrepreneurship is the way to go, entrepreneurship from an investment point of view, it's always the way to go. You always want to be as financially free as you possibly can. And freedom, I think, is the ultimate. That's what we're all looking for, right? So that's what I would say. Just go for it, try it, take risks, and no matter what, you're going to grow, and you're going to become more valuable. And if that means you become more valuable so that you can go back out to the job for, you know, the labor market, and you can say all of these things that you've done and tried and what you've learned, that just makes you more and more valuable. So just keep building brick by brick. You'll get there.
All right. Thank you, Lily. Chris, closing comments?
To those prospective entrepreneurs, I'd say this, right? Believe in what you're doing, believe in your dream, have your passion, but I would say seek to learn some tools before you go into what you gonna put your hard-earned savings, your children's education, your retirement fund into. So think of it in a very serious way. And if you do nothing else, do a feasibility analysis before you go into what you're doing. You need to find out if you are the best person or team to deal with the idea you're going into. You need to find out if the market is interested in what you are doing. You need to find out if you have the financial resources to capitalize on that opportunity, and what the return on investment will be in the future, and if it's high enough for your needs. If not, you run the risk of wasting time, burning up your resources that you need to use in the future, and facing disappointment. Mitigate risk, increase the chance of success.
All right, thank you both. And we do have a few more questions in Q&A, but we're not going to be able to get to them. So of course, we want to give the audience the opportunity to reach out to both of you online. So where could they find you on social media? Either LinkedIn, Facebook, or any other platform that you are on?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram. I'm on Lily Dash on LinkedIn. My email address is lily@wefetch.com. So if you reach out, feel free. If there's anything I can do to help, I'm here.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm on Instagram at CG Harps. I'm on Facebook. It's Christopher Gerald Harper. You can find me, you can send me an email at chrisgeraldharper@gmail.com. I'm on LinkedIn as well too. So reach out. Be happy to answer any questions that you have. And I hope that this was informative for you, and you know, we're here to help.
Okay, thank you both. And I have a note here coming from someone on my team. We have a question. Someone was asking about the programs from the Kidsville School of Business that would help you in entrepreneurship. We have our Lean Launchpad program. There are programs in finance for non-financial managers, and there are new courses in digital marketing that would definitely help you if you want to explore those as areas to build. And I've been specifically told that I should also mention our EMBA program. So please, you can visit our website, or you can reach out to anyone at the school. Just drop an email to chsb@cavehill.uwi.edu, and ask for additional information. So thank you all for joining us today. Our topic has been entrepreneurship, lessons, experiences from the field. And thanks to our panelists, Lily Dash of Rexy, Villa Bound, and Refetch, and Mr. Chris Harper, entrepreneur and faculty at the business school. I think it was a great pleasure to have both of you be primarily. I brought you together to be on the panel because I wanted the different perspectives, and you definitely did not let me down in that. I like the fact that you've had different experiences, I think, in growing your businesses. Your approach to business may be slightly different, but you both are showing us that it is possible to succeed as entrepreneurs in the region and in the Caribbean, regardless of where you're starting and regardless of the approach. But the thing that you did agree on was that you still had to have that passion, even though you had to be careful with it. And you don't do things in a way that would increase your risk. You need to always be capable or plan for mitigating your risk. So thank you to our attendees. As always, we ask you to keep the conversation going. You can, of course, put comments on our Facebook page. And of course, you can reach out to our panelists. You can reach out to us as well if you need additional information or clarification on any of the issues or programs that we offer. This is the last in our Friday webinars at the Business School series. And it has been my pleasure over these last 3 months to have had some excellent conversations with individuals who generously have agreed to share their time, their knowledge, and their experiences with all of us. I've learned a lot, and I certainly hope that you have too. For any of the webinars that you have missed, please check out the Cave Hill School of Business's Facebook page or our channel on YouTube. For more information on the school and any of our programs, please visit our website, uwichsb.org. Continue to stay safe, stay sane, and be innovative because it's what we need now and for the future. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Here at the Sagicor Cave Hill School of Business and Management, located at the University of the West Indies Cave Hill campus, we meet the needs of the upwardly mobile professionals. Our business school functions in an evolving global space where the need to have that competitive edge distinguishes you as a professional. Our academic curriculum offers a variety of programs that gives you that edge. We offer our students a doctorate in business administration. Then, there's our executive masters in business administration. Our Sagicor Cave Hill School of Business and Management is for you. Enroll now.